I'm sorry, but I don't think your microphone was working, so I apologize on that one. I'll bring you back on. Your mic's not working. I apologize. So I'm going to bring out our first our guest, Sonia, and then it looks like Mark's ready to come back on. So here you go. There you go.
Okay.
Sorry, man.
I apologize. I did this grand intro and nobody could hear me, and I am so sorry. Hey, everybody. I'm Mark Walters of BigFanboy.com. Welcome back to Comic Art Live. My apologies for the technical difficulties. I think we got it worked out. The fun is not stopping. We are going to do another wonderful panel, and then we will be back tomorrow to do even more panels until we all tire out of this. But I think everybody's having a good time, and that's what matters. And we appreciate you being here. Please be sure and take note of the comment section if you guys would like to ask any questions. If there's anything you would like us to cover, I'm more than happy to take your questions from the comment section. Without further ado, I'm going to bring in our special guest that we have for today's panel, Sanya Anwar. Sanya, are you there?
Hi.
Hey, see, it was funny because Sonia and I, behind the scenes, she was having a little bit of technical difficulty, and now I'm having technical difficulty. So we're even now. We're even. We're good.
I'm glad it was you on the spot, though, and not me. I got to do it behind the scenes.
Thanks. And I believe we also have Tatiana with TDArtGallery. Tatiana, hello.
I'm not having any technical difficulties.
You got to catch up to us. We're all having technical difficulties.
Oh, that means
Tatiana's
I'm due
like
one
perfect.
later, huh?
Thanks for being here today. It's great to have this. This is going to kind of close out our day, and I think we're going to have some fun with it. Tatiana, appreciate your help as always on this Comic Art Live thing. You've always been a really great help to us, and so thank you for that. It really means a lot. So, Sonia, you are talking to us from just outside of Toronto, Canada, where you said it's already getting dark.
It is. Normally, this room I'm in is so bright, it's almost blinding. So I was very pleased to see that we're doing this in the evening where I can not make it seem like I live in a giant white room. Yeah, getting dark, but ready to draw.
I really enjoy your work, and I especially enjoy, there's so many things I want to ask you about, but I guess, well, let's start with something that I know is real personal to you, and that's 1001, which people can read on your website, which is artbysonia.com. Let's start talking about that. What was your inspiration for that? And maybe tell a little bit about like how that came together, because I think it's absolutely beautiful work.
Oh, thank you. It was kind of funny. I think like a lot of creators, I was at the beginning of my career, and, there's no real guidebook of like, how do you break into the industry? And I had gotten this idea in my head that if I could just prove that I can do it, that I'm a reliable, kind of person, and I have some decent ideas, if I could just bring it to fruition and people could see that I can make a dependable product, that I could maybe quote unquote break in. And so, yeah, I came up with the idea for 1001 because I wanted to choose a story that I could keep falling in love with over and over again, that had some sort of like audience already, but also that had just a lot of like ornate and beautiful details and scenes that I could draw upon, that I could go crazy with, and just not get bored of, really. Because I think anyone can fall in love with a story initially, but to be able to work on it for years, like you have to really be enjoying it. So yeah, that's sort of where it came from, just this desire to prove that I could do it, and bring a story to fruition as both the writer and the artist and the colorist and the typesetter and everything.
And a story that is familiar to a lot of people, but that you're still kind of able to put your own spin on it. That's always fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I absolutely love your use of color, because I think your use of color it's very unique and it feels very personal. And I wanted to kind of maybe get an idea of where some of your influences came from, because it doesn't look like just everything else you see out there. It looks like it's got its own voice. And I love that about it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, because the color is super, super close to my heart. And I think like many people, I went into it in the beginning being like, where do I start? But the more you fall in love with colors and color palettes, the more you see inspiration everywhere. And then it just becomes a matter of, creating this huge repository in your mind of wanting to use this palette and that palette, and just having enough artworks to put it all into. And sometimes it's a struggle, for sure. I'm sure I will struggle today, because that's just
we're gonna get to watch you do some of this live.
yeah, and I'm gonna
no pressure.
I'm gonna be doing all my color choices live, so that's a little nerve-wracking. But Yeah, no, so it's a labor of love, and I do enjoy doing it.
Mm-hmm. And now I want to just kind of go down the list for some people that maybe aren't familiar with your work. We've seen you do work on Fathom. We've seen some covers and things from you on Betty and Veronica, Faith, Doctor Who. What am I leaving out? Help me out here, because I'm trying. Oh, Jughead. A lot of the Archie stuff, which I think is a lot of fun. But then like really cool like books that are completely in the other direction, like Deja Thoris and stuff like that. What am I leaving out? What am I forgetting?
Oh my gosh, I'm a little bit all over the spectrum. I just finished a Red Sonia cover, and Deja Thoris. I've done a lot of Doctor Who, a lot of Assassin's Creed. I'm a big video game fan.
James Bond,
Archie,
yep.
A lot of Archie comics. Love Archie comics. A little bit of Valiant there too. And I work with DC as well, but primarily as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
Although they occasionally will bring me in on some drawing stuff too. But I started with them as a writer, so for them I do something a little bit different. It's exciting being able to get around and play in a lot of different playgrounds.
Now, people can find out more about you not only at your own website, but at TDArtGallery or TD. I always screw this up. Tatiana, help me out. TDArtGallery is the way to say it. .com. How did you guys get connected? I want to find out that story, because Tatiana, I know you're a big art lover yourself, and so you know so many people. But how did you two connect?
Yeah, Sonia and I have known each other for I want to say 6 or 7 years at this point. So we met at Big Wow, which is the show that I used to be part of with Steve Morger. And any of those of you who watched the interview that Bill did with me a few weeks ago, we talked about that show. So Steve met Sonia at a show, and I can't remember if it was in Toronto
Montreal,
or New York.
actually. Yeah.
Okay, Montreal. So he met her at a show in an artist alley. And if anybody's ever seen her set up at a show, her work is so stunning that you'll notice it. You know, when you walk down the row of artist alley and you see all the banners, you'll notice hers across the room. Her design work is so amazing and so unique and has such personality. He fell in love with her work immediately, said, we need to have you out to Big Wow, which was in San Jose, California. And I met her as a guest at our show, and we just clicked. I loved her work. She's just the coolest person. So then when I decided to start TD Art in 2017, she was one of the very first people I asked if she would go on this crazy journey with me.
And it's been amazing. Tatiana's been so great to work with. And yeah, we hit it off really quickly. I think both of us being nerd girls to start out with, and both of us being artists to start out with. So yeah, it's been so fantastic working with her, and yeah, like to many years more.
Aw. You're on mute again, Mark.
See, I'm falling apart. If it wasn't for you two, I don't know what I would do.
At first I thought my mic went, but my speakers went, but go ahead.
No, it was me. It's totally me. I muted my microphone because I moved it. I apologize. I did want to ask you, Sonia, what was your first published work in comics?
It was a piece for Valiant, actually. I think it was Ninjak.
Okay.
Part of the sort of like Shadow Man pantheon. And yeah, I was just so floored that, I mean, at that point I had been on the con scene for a little while, and you know, you're at that point where you're like, oh God, did I make the right decision? Is something going to come of this? But yeah, one of the editors from Valiant approached me, and I remember the first time I got that business card, I was like, oh my God, something's happening, something's starting. So yeah, it was really, really meaningful for me and for my husband, who is super supportive of my career. So yeah, they definitely have a important little spot in my heart.
Were you a Valiant fan before that? Like, had you read some of the older Valiant stuff?
You know, I hadn't read actually a ton of Valiant by that point. They were relatively new to me because I had been sort of more of like a Marvel girl and a Top Cow girl growing up. Mm-hmm. But I got a little bit more familiar with it, especially familiar with the fans. Like I've done like a handful of Valiant pieces, but I constantly meet these diehard and really nice Valiant fans at every show. And they always have like the coolest stuff. Like I think a year or two ago, I signed a Valiant skateboard that someone was taking around, like a actual formal one. So yeah, they just have the coolest stuff. They're a really neat group.
That almost sounds like maybe a really cool leftover item from like the 90s era when they were just putting out all sorts of really wacky, cool stuff. Like I remember Rob Liefeld was taking like giant spaceships to shows and things like that, where they were just making all these really cool promo items. So that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
We're going to be able to see some of what you're working on. Do you have a way to show that to us now, or do you want to wait a little bit?
No,
okay.
no,
You have a way to show it to us. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
I'm going to share my screen and hopefully this will work.
Yeah, you're full screen right now for us. So
awesome. So let's see, share screen, and I'm going to share this. Okay, so can you guys see what I'm looking at?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, Tatiana put up a survey a little while ago about what character I should draw for this panel, and I think it was down to Sarah Pizzini of Witchblade fame and X23.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, really wanted to do Sarah Pizzini because I totally grew up on Witchblade and I absolutely love her. But in the end, I was just kind of vibing more with X23, so I ended up going that direction. So this is the original that I wrapped up. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do a color version of this. So from start to whatever finish we can get to today. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take this off. So this is the photo. This is the photo of it on my desk.
Okay.
And this is the actual piece I'm going to color today. And yeah, so basically I've got, can you see my mouse? Is my mouse, cursor visible at all?
Yes, it is visible on the screen. Yeah.
Oh, great. So this whole area is just a color palette I kind of set up earlier. Mm-hmm. As we talked about earlier, I'm really passionate about color and how it's used. So for me, that's like the juiciest part of the whole process. And yeah, I'm just going to hop right into it, setting up a nice background for this piece. And hopefully I don't have a ton of technical difficulties and it just goes super smoothly.
Well, if you do, I think we're all we're all in the same boat except Tatiana. She's doing great. So
that's not right. And my remote just turned off. There we go. Turn that. There we go. That's the correct. Perfect. So right now I'm just, there's always a temptation to do like just a quick fill background like I did now, but I always want my colors to have a lot of depth. So what I'm going to do once my brush finishes rendering is I'm going to create a really nice background for this with just a lot of color depth. So you're never just looking at something that only has one note to it, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. It'll make sense visually in a minute. There we go. Okay. So I'm just laying in colors that I want to use in the piece seemingly randomly. And they are going to give the piece the warmth it needs and the depth it needs to give us a good starting point.
So Sonia, can I ask you, what do you use as your inspiration for coming up with the little palette that you have there?
What I always start with is the color that's non-negotiable. So let's say if you're drawing Superman, right? You're not going to escape drawing a lot of red and a lot of blue. So you need to do a color palette that's going to vibe with that without causing too many problems. So that's always my starting point, is solving the underlying problem. And from there, I'll start to be like, okay, now how can I make this a little bit interesting? So that's generally where I start with almost every piece. And the good thing about X23 is she mostly is flesh tone and monochrome. So you can do a lot with her without too much issue.
I noticed that you have inset there a face, and I'm assuming that that's so that you can kind of get the skin tone that you're going for on that particular character. Is that what that is?
Sort of, yeah. I'm not a huge, I don't like to rely on reference too much because I find like if you go too far down that path, the piece starts to get really stiff. So this is a reference for, the depths and breadths of the skin tone I want from her. So rather than using this as a face to model off this face, I'm the blush, the tone of the lips, some of the tone of the shadows, rather than that actual girl. So yeah, it's more of a makeup reference than anything, maybe.
Right, just to kind of where it's going to go on the face. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Even that I don't actually normally do. I don't know if you can see up here. This is actually the palette I just used on my red Sonia piece was still up there. That's more of what I use, but I thought today it might be a little interesting to share some of the background thought processes.
And just out of curiosity, how big is the screen in front of you? Like, how is it enormous?
You know what? Let me see if this is going to do something weird.
I love these behind the scenes looks.
So this is my Cintiq, which is actually really big. Here's my hand for reference.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's really quite huge. I was actually genuinely worried if that plays any role in how the resolution comes through, but it seems like it's going pretty well so far.
Yeah.
Can you guys see me again?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Now maybe tilt this a little bit. We're in my office / studio right now on an angle. They built the whole house on an angle.
By the way, I have to compliment your drafting table in the background. It looks really nice.
Thank you. Yeah, it's nice. I set some LED lights underneath it, so I turned it. It basically turns it into a light table.
That's great.
I was super happy with that hack. I wanted to share it with like all my artist friends as quickly as I could. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So now this piece that you drew the piece first and you scanned it in. How long would you say the process of drawing the piece took you before you go to the colors?
I think it depends. I wish I had a really good answer for that. But in all honesty, it depends on how much of a struggle it is. Sometimes like a piece and a concept, it comes up in your mind super quick and it's no trouble at all. And other times it's just such a slog, like dragging it out of you. So like on average, maybe anywhere from something like this would be maybe an hour to 3 hours, depending. An hour would be really optimistic. That would assume that all the chakras are aligned and all that kooky stuff. But yeah, it can take a while if it's a struggle, and then the days where it's not a struggle are great. The days where everything just flows really nicely.
Yeah. Are you a big X-23 fan?
Especially after the movie. Like I had seen a little bit of her before the movie. The Logan movie, I mean to say. I'm taking out the wrong palette right now. But after seeing the movie, I'm especially a fan of hers. She's gotten a lot. I remember when she came out, and I thought that she was kind of, I don't know, she felt like a little bit of a gimmicky concept, like Wolverine's daughter, clone, whatever you want to call her. But I don't know. She's really kind of come into her own now, and she has like a huge fan base. I always gauge a fan base based on how often I'm asked to draw a character, and I have like a decent amount of X-23s at shows, I feel like.
Yeah, it's a great character because, while there is the familiarity there from just what we know about Wolverine, having a character that is kind of like in the same vein, but yet we don't know any background about her, and we don't know like what she's thinking or why she does the things that she does. I think that makes it very interesting and, makes you want to follow it. If anything, Wolverine, as much as I love the character of Wolverine, we've kind of been down the road with Wolverine so many times that it's refreshing to get, kind of a new take on that same mythos, I guess.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. And I think the other thing I like about her is there's it's something my husband and I complain about a lot, is when you read a novel or watch a show or read a comic where the writer is so in every single character that every voice sounds the same. Everyone's trying to be clever and everybody's witty and everybody's like very verbal and what have you. And I like X-23's character because she's not a super clever, wordy character. She's a little sober. She's a little withdrawn. And I actually like that. I find that like refreshing, that here's somebody who isn't constantly trying to steal the limelight, or at least that's my take on her.
Tatiana, I'm curious, do you have a piece by Sonia in your collection? Like a personal piece?
Yeah, I have a couple. So when Sonia, the first couple of years she came with over to Big Wow, I had her, she was talking about loving video games earlier. and I had her do a piece of my character from Dragon Age Inquisition, which is a role-playing game, and it had just come out, and I've been a fan of the series for a long time. And she got so into researching, because it's one of those build your own character kind of things. Mm-hmm. So she couldn't just Google the character and draw it. She got so into researching the character. I'm sure she spent entirely too long on it, but it ended up getting her to play the game because she got really interested in the lore and everything, which was really fun.
I played it twice.
Huh?
I played it twice.
Played it twice, yeah. And playing it twice is not short. These are like 100+ hour games. So
right.
And then I also bought one of her personal pieces with I mentioned she has the really cool design elements and stuff that she does. So I bought one of those from her as well. So yeah, it's her work is unmistakable when you see it. It's just got this really amazing graphic quality to it. And I'm really excited that we're going to watch you digitally color today, Sonia, because it's something that is Sonia does also color. She does commissions that are in color as well, like actual physical colors. But her digital colors are really special and have this really cool graphic quality to them that I haven't seen with other artists. So I'm just really excited to get to see it today.
Yeah, and as Tatiana says, I do Copic works as well, like colored marker works, like the commission that I made for her. But I was a little nervous about setting that up with a camera because I had never done it before on screen. So I'm like, I also love doing digital painting, and I don't think I've even mentioned yet that I'm working in Corel Painter. So yeah, this was kind of a nice opportunity to do something without worrying about my kids coming in and throwing the markers everywhere.
You guessed my next question. I was going to say, what program are you using right now?
Yeah.
You're way ahead of me.
Yeah. So basically this is Corel Painter. It's not actually very commonly used, which is unfortunate, but the long story short is Photoshop, for all of its for all of the things that it does really well, and many programs like it, they don't have true color engines. They just appear to mix colors. So for example, if you have red and blue, it will do thin layers of them to create a greenish effect, but it's not really a true green. You'll get something kind of muddy and brown. But this program has a really beautiful color mixing engine that will give you just more stunning colors. Like you saw how quickly I created a pretty rich, colorful background here without a lot of effort. I just find that comes together so slowly in Photoshop. So I do my finishing in Photoshop, but I don't do my actual painting in Photoshop because I will always get more beautiful colors in Painter.
I am sending Chad a link. I hope he's listening to a piece, one of your finished pieces, because I wanted to show something that you did that was finished so that people can get an idea of some of your commissioned pieces. So hopefully he will post that up here in a minute. I'll keep an eye on it. In the meantime, we do have a question in the chat. Ivan Velasco says, "Hi, Tatiana. And what is Sonia's favorite video game?"
Oh man, there's a lot of answers to that question. If we're talking about just hours played, I'm very embarrassed to say that it's Stardew Valley. I have played a humiliating amount of Stardew Valley, Civilization 5 and 6. I've played a lot of. My husband is literally waiting for me to wrap this up so we can play the Civ 6 expansion. And what else? I played a lot of classic Assassin's Creed. I love the classic versions, a little less so the modern stuff. What else? I've become a fan of Dragon Age. Absolutely love Persona. I recommend Persona to anyone who hasn't played it yet. It's a really wild ride. It's just an incredibly stylish game, and I absolutely love it. And yeah, I'd say those are the big ones. Those are the ones that take up most of my time.
We have an image up on the screen right now, okay. We have an image up on the screen right now. Chad, did you get the image I sent you the link to? I hope you did. Let me just double check and make sure he got that. Sorry. doing a little behind the scenes things here.
Take your time. Take your time.
So the piece that popped up briefly there, just to let people know, is that was a piece that Sonia did. It was like a convention sketch.
I wanted people to get an idea. I wanted people to get an
sketch.
idea of like a finished commission and what that looks like. So, and if you guys are interested in setting that up, you can contact Tatiana at TDArtGallery.com. Please don't hesitate to do so. I know that, with no conventions going on right now, it's hard to kind of get a chance to meet people in person, but that doesn't mean that you can't still get a piece of artwork from them. So, please contact Tatiana if you are inclined. Wow, Sonia, that is coming together so nicely and so quickly.
Well, thank you. Let's hope it does.
So I'm curious, because watching you color, obviously we're seeing this live, we're seeing what you're doing live.
Mm-hmm.
Are there certain pieces that you find take a lot longer to color, or maybe certain pieces that are a lot easier to color, and what kind of helps define that?
That's a super great question. And I almost wish I knew the answer to that myself, because it always screws me over. So often I'll come up with like a cover or an illustration and I'll be like, yeah, this is great. But it's like just the penciler in me who's doing that. And the colorist in me is like asleep at that time. Not very much not at the wheel, because sometimes I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to do this like beautiful snowy landscape with dozens of pine and fir trees, which is something I just did. And then like the colorist in me has to take over. And I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, this is going to take forever to like render all of these trees. This is a nightmare. Like, I wish I was more aware when I do that. I mean, it's good. It's good. You have to pencil in such a way to challenge yourself. But sometimes I'm very much wishing that I gave myself easier jobs, if that makes sense. I don't know if that answers the question necessarily, but
no, that's great. We're right now, people are kind of getting an idea, seeing some of the pieces that are available, and this will sort of give you an idea of what you can expect. But yeah, oh gosh, it's just terrific. So sorry, I'm kind of fanboying out here.
No, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. I had a lot of fun doing this piece. I like X23 because it was an opportunity to make this sort of grumpy face, right? Like, you can't always pull that off with every character. But with her, it just kind of works. So it was, like super fun to do.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, had I done the Sarah Pizzini piece, which I've been thinking of, it was going to be like a coffee and donuts kind of thing. But in the end, I just really wanted to make this one.
I'm curious, do you have, and I'm guessing I can probably get an idea just from some of the things you've already told me, but who are some of your artistic influences? Like, who are some of the people that really, influenced you to kind of go down this road, as you were growing up?
It's funny because I grew up in kind of a little bit of a, sorry, what's the term I'm looking for here? A little bit of an art desert, so to speak. Like, it's not like there was a lot of art around me, or I had access to a lot of art. I think I was like 8 or 9 before I got to go to my first comic book store. So I kind of just took impressions from the few things that were around me. So there was a lot of like, being of Pakistani origin, there was a lot of like beautiful ornate Pakistani clothing and henna designs and things like that, which inspired some of the more ornate elements of my art. But then over time, I really got into Art Nouveau without really knowing what Art Nouveau was. And it was literally only at my first couple of conventions when people started telling me that my stuff had a really Art Nouveau look, and I had to kind of nod and pretend that I knew what that meant, that I started to realize that maybe I should start actually, taking it seriously as a job and putting in the research. So I started kind of researching Art Nouveau and Art Deco and absorbing the parts of that I wanted and denying the rest, or removing things that I was less interested in. And to answer further to that, like some of my favorite creators when I was growing up, especially, were people like Michael Turner and Adam Hughes, animators like Glenn Keane, and a lot of stuff that was coming out of Japan. A lot of mangaka.
I love that you mentioned Glenn Keane. That's terrific.
Yeah, well, I'm like very excited to watch the new Glenn Keane movie. So I think it's a little bit in my brain right now too. So yeah, all of that was really kind of really formative for me, especially because I didn't get a chance to go to art school. all of this stuff had a real effect in like adding up in my psyche, I guess.
You mentioned Michael Turner. Mike was a good friend of mine, and of course, it broke my heart when he passed away. I imagine that for someone like yourself, with him being somewhat of an influence for you, being able to work on something like Fathom probably personally meant a lot to you to be able to be involved in that, I would imagine.
You know, I actually haven't worked on Fathom, but I would love to one day.
I'm so sorry. You haven't?
Right.
I could have sworn that you did.
I would love to.
I don't know why I thought that. I'm so sorry.
That's completely fine. I would love to one day. So hopefully that what you're saying is prophetic.
Yes, that's right. You're going to work on Fathom.
See, that's what it is.
I'm so sorry.
Not at all. Yeah, no, I would love to one day because it was, oh man, when I was a kid, like it was so intense, like opening up like those first couple pages, and you know, Michael Turner was so much about like all this like heavy, ornate, decadent like line work, almost to the point of being, you know, too much at times, but like. Mm-hmm. When you're that age and you're seeing it, it just takes over. Like I remember like opening those first couple books and thinking, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And I still have them. I bought every single issue of Fathom that I could, and a lot of Witchblade as well.
Yeah, it's so great. I remember the first time when I saw Witchblade, you know, when he was those first couple issues, and I was just like, this is next level stuff. Like there's just something about this that's unlike anything else that we've seen. Okay, so this I know what I'm talking about. I know you're a big video game fan. We just saw it flash on the screen there. When you get to work on something like Assassin's Creed, and something that actually is tied in with a very popular video game, that's got to be kind of a high, right? To be able to say like, oh, I'm actually getting to do something that's connected with this hugely popular video game universe.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and Assassin's Creed, oddly enough, was one of the first, was really one of my earlier projects. So it was especially shocking for me to, you know, as I said, I didn't necessarily have a lot of background knowledge for Valiant, although I was like super excited to work with them. But for Assassin's Creed, I'm like, oh my God, I know this back to front. It was, you know, it was and still is a high every time they contact me. Even if the current games are not necessarily my favorites, I'm still so much a fan of that franchise. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if anyone's wondering, I even though X-23 wears a lot of black, I want to give her black a little bit of dimension, because I've seen some artists render her leather pieces with a couple different shades to it, and that's what I want to pick up on. Yeah, so if you're kind of wondering why I'm kind of got all these like browns and greens and everything going in, I just want to give it a little bit more robustness. And then if it doesn't work, I can always fix it in the end.
So is it challenging when you're doing something like, say, like something like Assassin's Creed, or something that's a little more hard-edged, you know, or like X-23, and then you have to go and do like Jughead or Betty and Veronica, and you have to kind of, you know, come at it from a different angle? Is that challenging from an art perspective, or do you kind of find that just freeing, that you're able to experiment with different styles?
Yeah, definitely. I think going from like the, let's call it hard stuff, like from the hard stuff to the soft stuff is never a struggle, but going the reverse direction is sometimes like, oh man, you know, you're going from doing like a soft and floaty Betty and Veronica to, you know, as I said, I just did a Red Sonia piece. So, someone like Red Sonia, and you're like, are there enough barbarian heads? Should there be more blood? So those are definitely questions I'm not asking when I'm on the Betty and Veronica side of things.
And also, you know, we talked earlier about how you do writing as well.
I do.
What's more challenging, being a writer or having to, you know, tell the story through your art? Or do you have a preference, or is it just kind of fun to kind of go back and forth?
Oh, the writing is for sure harder, because I even though I've read my whole life and I'm a very prolific reader, especially of novels, I didn't grow up a writer. Writing is something I was fortunate enough to learn under Scott Snyder in the DC writers program. So writing is still very new to me. Whereas with the art, even if the art's not perfect, I have the experience and the taste level to see problems relatively clearly, even if I see them a little too late. But with the writing, like sometimes, you know, you're writing a scene. I'm writing a scene right now where my editor just got back to me and was like, this is great, but the order of things, like, you know, loses some of its power. I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. How did I not realize? So being on the less experienced side of it makes the writing like for sure harder.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that is really coming along nicely.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. And I love what you talked about with like kind of varying the color scheme on the clothing as well, because
Yeah.
when it's just black, it kind of loses a lot of that character, you know.
Yeah, and I think like if you've got those like Eduardo Riso style creators who do such beautiful, and like Mike Mignola, people who do just the beautiful black and white, really striking stuff, like then it works and it's fantastic. It's beautiful, right? But for me, like I think my strength is my color, and that's why I want to bring that to the table as much as I can.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, what are you working on currently, or what's like the most recent project that you came off of?
Yeah, so right now I'm doing a written piece for DC, which is actually a written / potentially drawn. We'll see. That depends a little bit on schedule, which is really interesting. And unfortunately, I can't talk much more about it than that. I'm doing
Understood.
a little bit of artwork for Marvel on, again, a project I can't say too much about. But yeah, beyond that, the only thing I think I can talk about is, again, the red Sonia that I just put away, which was really fun. It was my second chance to play in that universe and work with a character with a pretty bodacious costume. So yeah, it was pretty fun. It was pretty interesting.
So you just brought up a really interesting thing to think about, and that is being able to write something and then potentially being able to also illustrate that piece. How does that, like, in your head, how do you feel about that? Because it's kind of almost like saying like, oh, this person wrote this movie and now they're being asked to direct it. You know, is it more challenging to have to illustrate your own work, or is it actually more liberating because then you can kind of control not only the narrative of the story, but the, you know, the look and the feel of it?
Yeah, I would say it's generally pretty liberating. Because like I might have a really weird angle in my head, and I tend to tell very, very dense stories. So I know I've gotten this comment from artists I've worked with where in a single panel, I'll have a character doing 2 or 3 actions at once, and they'll be like, well, this is a lot in one panel. But in my mind, some of the actions are with the left hand, some of the actions are with the right hand. And I'm like, oh, no, it makes sense. It'll work. So it's nice to be able to solve some of those problems myself. Like I know this will work. But on the other side of things, I've been so surprised and amazed by the few artists I've had the opportunity to work with. Like they bring their skill set to the table and they just come up with these fantastic solutions that I never, ever considered. So it's a two-sided thing, I think.
Yeah. Living in Toronto, Canada, do you find, as far as the artistic community goes, because I know there's a lot of really great comic creators that live in that area. Does that kind of help keep things healthy and enriching for you to be surrounded by so many people that are kind of working in that same industry?
Oh, absolutely. Like I worked for many, many years in a local studio with some girlfriends of mine who are also phenomenal creators. And to be able to work alongside such skilled people and such amazing people who, went on to be very good friends is so enriching. And it was really heartbreaking for me to eventually, move quite far from Toronto to Burlington and have to just do, as you can see, my own at-home studio, because I really miss them. I miss obviously the fun of being friends and the shenanigans and everything else, but also just the working through ideas. A lot of times we'd all sit down and be like, okay, here's the story beat. I'm not sure if I should do this or that. Like, what do you guys think? What's your take on it? Not having that instant that instant response from people. Like, I miss it. I definitely miss it.
Yeah. This kind of brings me to a question I wanted to ask Tatiana, because Tatiana and I are both come from backgrounds of running conventions and, wrangling comic talent and things like that. Tatiana, how do you feel about like where things are right now and the fact that we're not able to do conventions and everything's kind of going virtual? In some ways, I like, it was really frustrating at first, but I think we're seeing maybe some positives from that, because it seems like the connection with the fans is becoming more like specific and personal. I mean, how do you feel about that? I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are.
I think that, well, one of the things I've talked to Bill about is that one of the things that's nice that's come out of this is that it's forced us to learn to adapt to doing more virtual, which is something that we should have been doing anyway. You know, Bill says, "Oh, I should have done Comic Art Live years ago." So the good thing is that it forced these things to happen. Also, one of the other big positives is that we can reach fans around the world who don't ever get to go to conventions. So I have a lot of clients who buy art who, you know, oh, I love this artist, but I'm never going to get to meet them. Well, now this is the closest. I mean, we are in Sanya's studio right now. So, yeah. So getting that kind of experience, which is actually beyond what you would get at an artist alley table, is really special and unique. And I hope it's something that stays. Definitely, it's really hard losing. You can only do so much of the social aspect online. So as you know, that social piece of conventions is really, really big. So it is definitely hard not seeing, you know, all my friends and doing all of those things together at shows. So I think one thing I would like to see with some of the online shows that I still want to see added is maybe a little bit more of a social component, that networking piece that we do a lot of shows. That's one thing I feel like we're still missing. But I feel like the buyer experience, the fan experience has actually been really enriched in a way that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, we had a panel earlier today where some of the people in the comment section were like from North Africa and France, and it just really gave you that sense of, oh, this really is like worldwide now. Whereas if we were just at a comic convention, you know, a lot of the people are going to be either locals or that have just kind of traveled in from like a state or two away, unless it's like a really, really big show like San Diego. But, you know, I think you're right. I think it does allow kind of a better reach for people and a better interaction for people, potentially a better interaction for people. So I think that it could be a very positive thing.
I think even for us artists who are just like, you know, we're just working, you know, like voles in our studios in the darkness, more than ever before. Because for me, I would just get out to see my fans and colleagues and friends a couple times a year. Like that's now nothing. It's even events like this, it feels like a little part of you is breathing again.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah, it's giving you that that social interaction that we've all desperately missed. So no, I totally get where you're coming from on that.
Yeah.
We're coming up on 44 minutes into the panel, so we're getting close to the end, but it looks like you are making some incredible progress here. And how are you feeling about this with knowing the time that we have left?
Well, I mean, like the way I normally work on a piece is I go background up, because there's a temptation to spend your time on all the fun bits like the face and stuff like that. But I realize for anybody watching me, it might be a little dull to watch me render like every single brick. So I've kind of just been doing big blocks of color that I thought you guys might enjoy watching. But yeah, no, I feel comfortable. I remember doing live commissions at shows for the first time like 10 years ago. It was such a stressful thing, and it is still a little stressful, but I've definitely come full circle now. I can speed up and slow down as need be. So it's okay.
And just a reminder for anybody watching, if you would like more information about Sanya, you can go to artbysanya.com, or you can go to TDArtGallery.com to get more information. If you're interested in getting a commission or, you know, a piece of artwork from her, please visit and contact Tatiana that way. She will be happy to help you. So Sanya, what's up for you for the rest of the year? I know we're kind of coming up on the end of the year here. You said you've got the Marvel project and the DC project. We can't talk about those.
I can't.
Is there something that you want to do that you haven't had a chance to do yet? Maybe something that would be like a dream project for you?
You know, oddly enough, I think the biggest dream project for me is just being able to give any amount of time to my comic 1001. Like I said at the beginning, 1001 was originally just to sort of prove that I could do this so that people would hire me. And, you know, fortunately that actually worked. And I have not been really much out of business since then. But the downside is now that I just never, ever have any time for it. Like paid work is always going to take precedent. So I think like the biggest thing for me would just be able to get back to it. And I feel like the comic is almost becoming an archive of my development as a creator, because when I started, like issue 1 of 1001 is my very first written piece, my very first comic book that I've ever made. And it definitely shows. But then, you get into issue 2 and issue 3, and it gets a little bit better every time. So it's the breaks in between the comics are getting a little bit bigger because I'm busy. And so I feel like if I ever get the opportunity to finish it, it's going to just be like a testimony to my journey in a weird way.
Yeah. I think it's a phenomenal work. And just considering the fact that you did it just so that you could show people that you were capable of doing it makes it even more impressive, because it really blew me away. I was very impressed with it. So I would love to see you do more work on that as well. We did have a comment from the chat. Wayne, I hope I'm saying your last name correctly, Musau, or it's Musso maybe. Beautiful piece. Love the coloring. Thank you, Wayne, for pointing that out in the comments. We appreciate it. Yeah, your coloring is just it. Like I said earlier, it's breathtaking, and it has kind of like its own unique feel to it, which is what I love so much about it. It doesn't look like I couldn't look at it and say, oh, I can tell you who colored that. It's very specific, and that's what I love so much about it.
Thank you. I try.
Yeah. Well, we're up at 47 minutes, so we're getting close to the end of the panel. Don't feel pressured to have to rush this because, I'm sure we can go at least up until the hour. But I just want to say before we start to kind of wind this down a little bit, and Tatiana, thank you so much. Sanya, thank you so much. It's so great having you guys be a part of this thing. This is my second time to be involved hosting this, and I think that what Bill is doing with Comic Art Fans and with Comic Art Live, I think this is a great thing, and I look forward to seeing, hopefully we can do this at least twice a year going forward. So, but yeah, this is great. I'm sorry. I'm geeking out because I'm watching you do this, and it's blowing me away.
I'm so glad you like it, because normally the fans in my household are 1-year-old and 6-year-olds. So just having someone around with more vocabulary alone is a gift.
Yeah. Have you thought about doing? I mean, obviously with the Archie stuff, that is more of kind of like an all ages type of thing. But like if someone came to you and said, "We want you to do this," Disney project, would you jump on something like that? I would think, being a fan of the people that you have been, Glenn Keane, people like that would kind of be an interesting fit for you, wouldn't it?
Yes and no. I do like that kind of content, but to be honest, I like stories where I can delve into some really grown-up concepts. Like I'm working on a narrative right now that deals with a character with like high paranoia and bipolar disorder. And I just feel like that's probably not something I could do in a children's playground, so to speak. Literally and figuratively, I guess. So yeah, I don't dislike it, but to be honest, I don't think it's anything I would ever go personally search out. I'm pretty happy being able to have darker tones in my work.
I can certainly understand that. Okay, we have a couple of things here in the chat. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. Omroy says, "Hi, Sonia. Love your work. I'm from India. Have you showcased your work in Pakistan? Cheers."
Hi. I would love to. And I think the furthest I've been invited is Dubai. So if there ever is like a Pakistan Comic-Con and they want to bring me down, I would love to go. I was just in Pakistan about a year, actually almost exactly a year ago now, and I really want to go back. So yeah, as long as someone invites me, I'll go. And it's not COVID, that too.
Right. Yeah, there's not a pandemic going on.
There's not a pandemic.
Harry Mendrick says, "Sonia, love your work and thanks for the color demonstration."
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it.
I think everybody's enjoying it. Everybody's saying nice things in the chat. So we appreciate you guys. We appreciate you guys watching. It means a lot that you're here and watching this live. And if for any reason anybody misses this, if you want to tell your friends about it, these videos will be up later, so that if you want to share it with your friends and let them know, and then they can know to watch it next time. And please make sure you guys tune in tomorrow as well, because we're going to have panels going on all day tomorrow as well. So we're in our final stretch here, and I hope you guys are seeing the progress that's being made here. I'm so very impressed with this.
I'm spending a lot of time on the boots for some reason.
Yeah, I noticed that. They look good, though.
Thank you. They'll look better with the laces, but I suspect we won't have time for that today.
Yeah.
But I do.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I believe Tatiana is going to be making the original of this available and the color as well. So I'll be finishing the coloring off screen, and then anyone who has any interest in seeing it, I'll probably tweet it on my website.
Okay.
So you can kind of see how it all ended up. And if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to get in touch with me on my website. I usually respond pretty quick because, let's be real, we all have our phones with us. So yeah, and any questions you may have on any pieces, just let me know, or let Tatiana know, because she can always find out where I'm hiding.
Okay, real quickly, I'm going to knock these out here. We've got HM Boutet. I guess that's how you say that. Good work, Sonia. Cheering you on from Manitoba.
Hi, Laura.
Oh, you know who that is. Okay.
I do know who that is. She's a good friend of mine from Winnipeg.
And Donald C.A., I think that's how you say that. Coloring is a good skill. Who were your influences? Awesome work. We did sort of touch upon artistic influences, but do you have color influences?
You know, I can't say I explicitly do, no. I think the color journey was just kind of something of my own that I took on and developed on my own. So yeah, no, I think the coloring was sort of my own journey. Yeah. Sorry, that's a bit of a boring answer.
No, that's fine. I see Bill has popped in here from comicartfans.com. That must mean we're getting very close to the end. So we've still got a few minutes, though, right, Bill? Like, we can watch.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. No, I just wanted to. I've been sitting here listening, and I finally asked Chad to put me in the stream. I just didn't want to do it myself, because the last time I did that, I took over the focus, the big part, and I didn't want to do that again. So Chad knows what he's doing, so he brought me in. But no, I've been listening the whole time. It's been great. Sonia, yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time out today to be in the show. This is fantastic. And Tatiana, I thanked you earlier today in my intro, but I have to thank you again, because the show wouldn't be the show without all the time we've gotten to spend together chatting about what we were going to do, and you helping me with the panels, and of course you too, Mark. I'm not leaving you out, because but no, it's been great. It's been a busy day. I haven't eaten anything yet today, so
Oh no.
I am so burned out. But Maureen has dinner waiting for me when this is all over. But
you know what, Bill? This is what it's like to be a convention promoter. You don't get to eat. Come on, you know this.
I remember the day. Because with Tatiana and I, we had so much fun with Big Wow, and yeah, it was always stressful. You were always, but the worst part there is you were always on your feet. At least here we're kind of all sitting down in our chairs, and maybe that's bad for our health in general, but I don't know. I've told Tatiana many times that Big Wow was one of the most fun businesses and jobs that I've ever gotten to be involved with, and that's really why I like Comic Art Live too. I like putting together events and bringing people together, and I don't get to interact with creators as much as everybody probably thinks, so it's fun to get to listen to Sonia and everybody else talk about their craft, and I get to see them work. And it's one thing to work with collectors and dealers all day, but I don't get to work with artists hardly at all. I envy dealers like Tatiana.
Well, Tatiana, let's tell people, before we close this out, tell people a little bit about TDArtGallery.com, what they can find there, just in case they haven't visited yet.
Sure. Well, the first thing I want to jump in before I say that is we did mention that the people who attended the panel live would get first dibs on purchasing the artwork. So as mentioned, it is the black and white that Sonia showed at the beginning, that photo she showed on her desk. Sonia, is it 9x12?
It's 9x12.
Okay, so it's a 9x12 ink piece. You will get that original artwork, and then you will get a 1-of-1 print of the color. So we're not going to use it to make any other prints. It'll be a 1-of-1. And Sonia, I believe you said you're going to be doing more with it after.
Yeah, because there's still quite a bit of background to do. There's a lot of juicy details to still put in. So yeah, right now I'm kind of just hitting all the highlights so you guys have something to enjoy. But yeah, there's quite a bit more development to go on it.
Yeah. So what you're getting will be a completely finished colored print.
Exactly.
Sonia and I did not talk about price before this, so. Sonia, do you have a price in mind?
Tatiana, that's where your brain works. Whatever, I trust Tatiana implicitly. And I'm terrible with numbers, which is why I went into art. So I pass that ball to you, my friend.
Okay, so let me think about that while I tell everybody about the website.
Yep.
So TD Art Gallery, I am an art rep. I rep 11 artists. Like I said, Sonia was one of my original. She was one of my original 4 or 5 artists that I asked when I first started. And if you go to the website, you can browse through all the different available art from all the artists. As Mark mentioned earlier, Sonia is currently accepting commissions. So on the top banner, if you click on commissions, you can check out her commissions as well and see what's currently available. So that's who's currently accepting commissions. So all the pricing is there, and there's a whole bunch of commission examples, some of which Mark showed earlier in the panel as well. So welcome to sign up for commissions. I did get one sign up already today. It was a pretty cool one. It's somebody's asking for the girl with the dragon tattoo. So that'll be fun. Nice. I haven't told Sonia yet. So now, there you go. Now you know.
now I know. I've only got to work on her once or twice, but I've read the book and I've watched the movie. So yeah, I'm fully on board.
Yeah, due to Sonia's really unique design capabilities and cool style, she gets some of the most unique commission requests of any of the artists I work with. So she doesn't, I mean, she does get, some of the standard superhero stuff, but not as much as some of the other artists do. And yeah, right now you're on her page of all of her available pieces. We do have a good selection of them available at the convention as well, and we're offering a discount on everything that's offered at the convention this weekend too. So so definitely be able to be sure to check out her stuff at the show, and then definitely the website as well. I'm thinking the piece that she's coloring live will probably offer for $250. So what you're getting is the full 9x12 inked original, as well as the fully colored 1-of-1 print, which we do not normally offer. So that's a unique opportunity. Usually her colored commissions are only Copics, and she doesn't usually do, full background and all this stuff. So that's a really unique opportunity. Plus you can always refer back to this video till the end of time. You have the process in which you don't normally get to see. So
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, so if anybody's interested, I won't put it up until later for availability tomorrow. So if anyone here is interested, please email me. You can contact me through the website, or you can email me direct at tdartsales@gmail.com and let me know, and I can get you all set up. Happy to sell it to you now. It doesn't even have to hit the website tomorrow. I wanted everybody who was here to have first dibs on purchasing it. So
that is very cool. Very, very cool. And let's go back to that piece real quick, just so people can see it one last time before we close out here. And as we're kind of wrapping this up, I just want to thank all of you guys that are watching this live, everybody that's participating in the chat. It really means a lot to us that you're here for Comic Art Live. On behalf of myself, Mark Walters, and on behalf of Bill at comicartfans.com, we really enjoy doing this, and we really enjoy the fact that you guys are having fun with it as well. And we're going to have even more panels tomorrow, so we hope that you'll come back and join us then as well. Bill, am I leaving anything out?
You are not. No, you are not at all. But again, my thanks goes out to Sanya and to Tatiana for setting this up and taking the time to do it. I know that schedules are tough even on the weekends for all of us. So I appreciate anybody who can, to kind of bring this out to everybody. So thank you.
Happy to be involved, and thank you for the great moderation.
Oh, well, thank you. It's been a pleasure, and this has been a really fun time. So I hope everybody that's watching this is having as much fun as we are doing it. So, Sonia, thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to do this work for us, and I hope that you guys stay safe and happy up there in Toronto, or just outside of Toronto, I should say. And hopefully we get to meet in person when all of this is over.
I hope so. I'm crossing my fingers for the days that cons come back and we can all shake hands again.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And Tatiana, thank you as always for being a part of this.
yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Bill,
All right.
any last words?
No, that's it. Thanks again to everybody who's tuned in all day. And, the panels start at 1 o'clock again tomorrow. There'll be an art drop at 11 a.m. On Sunday of the final pieces going out. There'll be at least 1,000 pieces in that art drop. So plenty to see at the show again tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Everybody have a wonderful evening and a good weekend.